Los Angeles, November 1971. A cool breeze wafted through Sunset Boulevard, where neon lights from bars and shops twinkled like artificial stars. Elvis Presley, now 36, had just finished a series of shows at the Las Vegas Hilton. His voice was still powerful, but his eyes carried the weariness of someone who had reached the pinnacle of fame too soon. He drove his sleek black Lincoln Continental, sunglasses obscuring his famous face, and stopped in front of the Ralph's department store on Sunset Boulevard. The Memphis Mafia, his trusted bodyguards, followed in 2 cars behind. But Elvis wanted a moment of privacy. He only wanted to buy some snacks, a box of cigars, and perhaps some space to breathe after nights of singing Suspicious Minds to thousands of enthusiastic fans. Inside Ralph's, the aroma of toast and coffee mingled. Elvis stood at the express counter, a can of Coca-Cola and a few trinkets in hand. He observed the crowd, weary housewives, students with worn-out backpacks, and an elderly man at the counter next to him. The man was about 62, named Harold Fitch, as Elvis later learned. He wore a torn jacket, worn-out trousers, and his hands trembled as he held a can of soup and a box of cookies. Harold was a World War II veteran who had fought in Normandy, now wandering the streets of Hollywood after losing his job and his home. His bill was only $2.14, but he was 37 cents short. "Sir, I'll take the soup out," Harold said softly, his voice trembling. At that moment, a tall figure approached. John Wayne, the legendary Duke, 64 years old, still muscular with his familiar cowboy hat despite being in the city. He had just bought cigarettes and a few other odds and ends after filming nearby. Without a word, Wayne gently placed his hand on Harold's shoulder. "Ring it all together, miss," Wayne said to the cashier, his voice deep and warm. "I'll pay for everything." Harold spun around. "I can't let you do that, sir. I'm not a beggar." Wayne smiled, a smile that resonated with millions of viewers on screen. "Son, I was short of money too. War teaches us that sometimes kindness is the most powerful weapon. Consider this a gift from an old soldier." The cashier, a 19-year-old girl named Maria, her eyes widened. The entire counter fell silent. Elvis, standing just meters away, witnessed it all through his sunglasses. His heart pounded. He knew John Wayne. They had met a few times on Hollywood sets. Elvis had once tremblingly shaken his hand and said, "Thank you for winning World War II." But this moment was different. Not the star, not the role, just the man. Wayne paid, patted Harold on the shoulder, and gave him some extra dollars. "Eat your fill and find a place to rest, soldier." Harold's eyes welled up with tears, and he mumbled a "thank you." He walked out, his shoulders slightly straighter. Elvis left the counter and followed Wayne to the parking lot. A cold wind blew. Elvis's bodyguard stood at a distance, respecting the distance. "Duke?" Elvis called softly. Wayne turned around, recognizing him immediately. "King, what are you doing here in the middle of the day?" Elvis took off his sunglasses. His face was thinner, tired from the medication and stress. He looked straight into Wayne's eyes, the blue eyes of the man who had conquered the Wild West on screen. "This question might shock everyone, but does it bother you, seeing people like this? People who sacrificed themselves, now lost amidst the neon lights?" The question rang out, simple but sharp. Maria, the cashier standing near the door, overheard it. Their bodyguards were also taken aback. John Wayne, the icon of tough masculinity, was silent for a few seconds. No one expected Elvis Presley, the rock and roll star with his Cadillac and glittering jumpsuit, to ask such a profound question about social pain. Wayne invited Elvis into his large truck, parked in the lot. They talked for hours, ignoring their schedules. Wayne recounted his impoverished childhood in Iowa, his days as a prop boy, and how he witnessed the loneliness behind the Hollywood glamour. "Son, life isn't always a movie. We see hundreds of Harolds, war, economics, or just bad luck. Kindness isn't for showing off, but for keeping your soul from decaying." Elvis shared her feelings. The loss of her mother, the pressure from Colonel Parker, the feeling of loneliness amidst the crowds of fans. I sing for them, but sometimes I wonder who sings for people like Harold. The conversation dragged on, leading to an unexpected trip. Wayne invited Elvis to an old diner along Route 66 near Tucson, a place where he had helped many people before. On the way, they stopped to help a migrant family whose car had broken down, buying gas and food. Elvis learned from Wayne how to help quietly. In the diner, the atmosphere was cozy with red leather chairs and an old gramophone playing country music. They talked about family, Wayne with his 7 children, Elvis with his baby Lisa Marie. Elvis's emotions were turbulent. He remembered Priscilla, the cracks in his marriage, and longed for a normal life. They flew back to Las Vegas, where Elvis was performing. Wayne attended a secret show. On stage, Elvis sang "The Impossible Dream" with overwhelming emotion, dedicating it to Wayne. The audience cheered, but Elvis only looked at Duke sitting in the VIP section. After the show, at the Sands Hotel, they met up with old Rat Pack friends, though some had drifted apart. The story spread. What did Elvis ask Duke that silenced the whole place? Rumors spread, and the Hollywood press buzzed. Elvis organized a small charity event, inviting Harold Fitch, whom Wayne had found, and several other veterans. The moment Harold hugged Wayne, and Elvis was the emotional climax. Tears, laughter, stories of war, and shattered dreams. Internal conflict. Elvis struggled with addiction and pressure, and Wayne offered fatherly advice. "Live for today, son. Kindness is the true legacy." After days in Las Vegas, John Wayne suggested Elvis fly with him to Tucson, Arizona. "Son, the neon-lit city will blind you. Back to the earth, to the sky, you'll see better." Elvis readily agreed. He cancelled 2 rehearsals, only instructing the Memphis Mafia to keep it a secret. Duke's private plane landed at Tucson Airport one November afternoon in 1971 as the fiery red sun bathed the Catalina Mountains. John Wayne's ranch was on the outskirts, vast with giant cacti and stables. The air was fresh, the desert wind carrying the scent of dry earth and wild grass. Wayne introduced Elvis to his wife, Pilar, and their teenage children. Elvis's little Lisa Marie was with Priscilla in Los Angeles at the time, so he only carried a deep longing for her. "This is the real Duke." Wayne laughed, taking off his outer jacket to reveal a worn plaid shirt. Not the role in the movie. Elvis stepped onto the red earth, a strange feeling. He was once a country boy named Tupelo, but glory had made him forget the smell of the earth. They rode along the edge of the farm. Wayne sat firmly on the back of his large Appaloosa, while Elvis was a little clumsy, but managed to maintain his balance. "How many people like Harold have you helped?" Elvis asked, the wind blowing through his dark hair. Wayne shrugged. "Countless, son. In 1959, I saw the rancher fire a waitress just because she was a few minutes late. I paid her and hired her to work for me. She's now the kitchen manager here. Kindness isn't for the press to praise, but to help people sleep better each night." They stopped their horses by a cliff, looking down into the valley. Elvis spoke of his impoverished childhood, of his deceased mother Gladys, of the pressure from Colonel Parker that forced him to sing constantly despite his sore throat. "I have money, I have a Cadillac, but sometimes I feel like I'm homeless in my own life." Wayne placed his large hand on Elvis's shoulder. "You have God-given talent, but that talent is meaningless if you don't use it to help others. I almost lost everything because of alcohol and arguments, but every time I helped someone, I found myself." That evening, they sat around the campfire with the farm workers, cattle herders, mechanics, and a few wandering veterans Wayne had taken in. Elvis took out an old guitar from the shed and sang slow country songs. "Love me tender, can't help falling in love." His voice echoed in the desert night, drawing everyone into a silent listen. An old veteran named Ramirez wept as he heard Elvis sing about his homeland. "I lost my house because of debt, and now Duke has given me a place to stay. He's a true hero." Elvis felt a clear change in his heart. He helped clear tables and wash dishes with everyone, something the Memphis Mafia wouldn't have allowed before. His inner self was stirred. Amidst the glitz and glamour of Las Vegas, he had forgotten this simple joy. The next morning, they drove their old truck along Route 66. They encountered a Mexican immigrant family whose car had broken down on the side of the road, and Wayne and Elvis stopped. They changed a tire, bought gas, and gave them food. Elvis gave the family's youngest daughter one of his old watches as a gift. "Keep this, baby. It reminds you that time can always start over." On the way home, Elvis asked, "Duke, if I want to help more, where should I start?" Wayne smiled. "From the people right next to you. No need for a big charity show, just quiet kindness like the one at the supermarket." That evening, in the cozy farmhouse living room with its blazing fireplace, the two men sat opposite each other. Wayne poured 2 glasses of whiskey, but Elvis only took a small sip. He was trying to control his drug habit. They began flashbacks. Wayne recounted Winterset, Iowa, in the 1910s, the impoverished Marion Morrison, his real name, who had to work hard and witnessed his parents arguing over money. "I learned that real men aren't those who don't cry, but those who cry and then get up to help others." Elvis shared about Tupelo, Mississippi, a 1-room cabin, his father Vernon in jail for forgery, his mother Gladys working tirelessly. "I sang on stage to forget about hunger, Duke. Now I sing to forget about loneliness." The heartwarming moment came when Wayne took Elvis to an orphanage near Tucson that he secretly funded. The children cheered at the sight of the 2 stars. Elvis sang and played guitar while Wayne told stories of the West. They gave him gifts, bicycles, warm clothes, and a small scholarship. A 10-year-old boy named Tommy, who had lost his father in the Vietnam War, hugged Elvis tightly. "Uncle Elvis, are you as sad as I am?" Elvis knelt down, tears streaming down his face. "I'm very sad, son, but today I'm happier because I met you." Wayne stood beside him, nodding in satisfaction. That scene seemed to heal some of Elvis's wounds. They returned to the ranch, continuing to talk about Rat Pack, about Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin, whom Elvis had once admired, about the pressures of fame. Elvis admitted his marriage to Priscilla was crumbling. "She wants a normal life, and I'm trapped in the showbiz world." Wayne advised, "Spend time with Lisa Marie. Family is the most important thing, son. Our movies may end, but our family doesn't." That night, Elvis lay on his rustic wooden bed, listening to the coyote howling in the desert. He wrote some new lyrics about compassion, and it felt like a rebirth. The next morning, rumors spread. A paparazzi photographer had secretly taken pictures of Elvis and Wayne at a Ralph's supermarket and on Route 66. Hollywood headlines read, "Elvis Presley and John Wayne, secret encounter, is King following Duke or just a stunt advertisement?" The news caused a sensation. Colonel Parker called Elvis to scold him. "Are you canceling shows to hang out with that old cowboy? Fans want rock and roll, not charity." The Memphis Mafia were worried, and some members advised Elvis to return to Las Vegas immediately. Conflict erupted. At a small bar in Tucson, several journalists stormed in, asking Elvis, "What was that question you asked Duke that silenced the whole supermarket? Are you having a mental breakdown?" Elvis was furious, but Wayne calmly pulled him aside. "Don't let them upset you. This is your chance to prove your kindness is genuine." They decided to organize a small meeting with Harold Fitch, the homeless man at the time, and a few other veterans at an old roadside diner. The press flocked in. During the meeting, Harold recounted his life story, embracing Wayne and Elvis and weeping uncontrollably. "You two gave me hope. Not money, but respect." Elvis stood up, his voice trembling before the cameras. "I asked Duke because I saw in him what I wanted to become, a person who cares about others in a world chasing after fame. Kindness isn't showbiz, it's real life." That statement spread like wildfire. Many fans sent thank you letters, and other stars like Frank Sinatra called in support. But there was also criticism. Elvis is being weak. On the flight back to Las Vegas, Elvis looked at Wayne. "Thank you, sir. That question changed me." Wayne patted him on the shoulder. "And you also reminded me that even though I'm old, I can still learn a lot from the younger generation." After returning to Las Vegas from Tucson, the atmosphere at the Hilton Hotel was more vibrant than ever. John Wayne stayed a few extra days at Elvis's invitation. Rumors of a secret reunion spread throughout Hollywood, piquing the curiosity of many old friends. Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., and even Dean Martin, despite his busy schedule, sent their congratulations by phone. Elvis decided to hold a small reunion in the presidential suite of the Sands Hotel, the former stage of the Rat Pack. On that November evening in 1971, the sparkling crystal chandeliers reflected on the polished wooden floor. Wayne wore a simple dark suit, while Elvis wore a shimmering white jumpsuit, though not as ostentatious as usual. Harold Fitch was invited along with his newly reunited wife and children, a small family Wayne had secretly helped. The atmosphere was warm and cozy, not a lavish party, but one filled with real-life stories. "King, you've changed so much in just a few days with Duke." Sinatra laughed, raising his whiskey glass. Sammy Davis Jr. nodded. "I heard you ask Duke a question that silenced the whole supermarket. Tell me about it, Elvis." Elvis smiled, but inside, a storm of emotions raged. He recalled those lonely nights on stage, where thousands of spectators cheered, but no one truly understood him. "I just asked, does kindness bother you, seeing those who sacrificed for the country now wandering aimlessly?" Duke didn't answer with words. He answered with actions. Everyone fell silent. Wayne patted Elvis on the shoulder. "Son, you've hit the nail on the head. Fame is fleeting, but compassion is the legacy." Dean Martin called via video from home. Though limited at the time, it was a special moment in this story. His voice was warm and deep. "Elvis, Jerry, and I once parted ways because of a misunderstanding. But seeing you and Duke, I remember that friendship and kindness can heal everything." The story of Dean and Jerry's 1956 breakup was recounted, creating an emotional atmosphere. Elvis sat by the electric fireplace, guitar in hand. He sang old songs interspersed with new ones he had written himself that night in Tucson. The ballad was titled "Silent Lights." The lyrics told of Harold, the Arizona desert, and a rock and roll boy learning to help without the spotlight. "Neon lights are shining bright, but the real stars are in the night. A stranger's hand, a quiet fight. That's the way we make it right." Elvis's voice echoed, his eyes closed, tears streaming down his face. Wayne sat silently, nodding slightly to the rhythm. Harold Fitch stood up and embraced Elvis, his voice trembling. "Boy, you gave me not just money but hope. My family will never forget." The reunion lasted until late at night. They shared their difficult moments. Elvis spoke of the pressure from Colonel Parker. Wayne recalled near-bankruptcy times from failed blockbuster films. Elvis's inner turmoil was palpable. He realized he was at a crossroads between fleeting glory and a more meaningful life. Priscilla called from Los Angeles, her voice warmer after hearing the news. "I'm so proud of you, Elvis. Lisa Marie wants to hear you tell cowboy stories too." The next morning, Elvis and Wayne strolled along the strip. Paparazzi were still following them, but this time Elvis didn't shy away. He stopped to give money and advice to a young street artist, repeating Wayne's words, "Kindness is the most powerful weapon." The final days of 1971 flew by. John Wayne returned to his Tucson ranch, but his spirit remained with Elvis. Elvis canceled some major shows, dedicating his time to family and quiet charitable work. He established a small foundation called the Silent Lights Foundation, helping veterans and the homeless in Las Vegas and Los Angeles, but keeping it private to avoid being seen as a stunt. One rare afternoon of light snowfall in Las Vegas, Elvis drove to see Harold Fitch at the small house Wayne had helped buy. Harold now had a stable job at an auto garage. "Thank you, Elvis. And thank you, Duke. Your question that day changed not only me." Elvis sat with Harold and his family, playing guitar for the children. He felt more at peace than ever. He wrote to Priscilla, promising to spend more time with Lisa Marie. To Colonel Parker, he was resolute. "I will still sing, but I will sing for those who truly need it." The final days of 1971 passed quickly. John Wayne returned to his Tucson ranch, but his spirit remained with Elvis. Wayne called from Tucson, "Son, you did it. Don't let the neon lights make you forget the desert. I'm proud of you." The story ends open on New Year's Eve 1971 to 1972. Elvis stands on the Hilton stage, singing "The Impossible Dream" with all his heart. In the auditorium, Wayne sits in the front row, smiling. Harold and many other veterans were invited for free. As the last note faded, Elvis looked down and whispered into the microphone, "Kindness doesn't need a microphone, it just needs a heart." The audience applauded incessantly. Outside, snow fell lightly, neon lights twinkled. Elvis Presley, the boy from Tupelo, had found a part of his soul through his journey with John Wayne. And Duke, the West icon, also realized that the younger generation still had hope. In the years that followed, even though Elvis's life remained turbulent, his quiet acts, helping the homeless, sponsoring veterans, always bore the mark of the question he asked in 1971. "Does it bother you?" And the answer, through the actions of both legends, still resonates today.